Hey guys, today we're taking a look at the newest release from Friday Pickleball, the Friday Fever. For those of you unfamiliar with Friday, they're a pickleball brand primarily known for having affordable paddles. Their 2 for $100 deal on their original paddles are still the best beginner paddle option in 2025, and it's the paddle I recommend to almost every new player looking to get into the sport. Now, with the launch of the Fever, they've now gone into the Gen 3 space. Friday's first two lineups, the Original and Challenger series, are considered Gen 2 paddles. Paddles that are made in a hot mold with foam injected around the perimeter for an extended period of time during construction. The foam gives this paddle some perimeter weighting to improve the stability and sweet spot, and the thermoforming process gives the paddles a stiffer and more powerful feel compared to ones made with little to no heat, aka cold press or Gen 1 paddles. With Gen 3 construction, the paddles are still thermoformed, but the common addition is extra foam being added to the paddle's interior. The most popular is what Yola did with their Gen 3S and adding a second layer of foam, which created what they called a floating core and increased the power even more from the Gen 2 paddles. Coming back to the Friday Fever, this paddle does something similar to the Yola with their second foam layer. The difference is that they made their second foam layer thicker and they have it go further down compared to the Yola paddles. But enough with the construction, let's start talking more about the Fever paddle itself. Right now, it only comes in the elongated shape, so it's 16.5 inches by 7.5 with a 5.5-inch handle. The core thickness is 16 millimeters and the cell size diameter is 8 millimeters. Now for the swing weight, it's on the lighter side for an elongated paddle at 115. Typically we see numbers around 118 through 120 for this shape, so this is considered more maneuverable. The twist weight, however, was a bit lower as well at 6.01. But since this paddle is on the lighter end, it's one that can take on some more tape to improve the power and stability without making the paddle too unwieldy. Moving on, let's talk about how the Fever actually plays. Now the big question is, does this paddle play like the Yola Gen 3S and mods? The short answer is no, but there are some similarities. Out of the box, the Fever does have a slightly hollow sensation when hitting the ball that's reminiscent of how the Gen 3S feels, but it's much less extreme. Since I found the Fever too light out of the box, I ended up adding 0.2 ounces of tungsten tape on each side from the 3 and 9 positions down to the throat, and some small extra strips at the top corners with electrical tape wrapped around the whole thing. This helped with the stability of the paddle and also gave the paddle more of a denser feel. It felt more similar to something like the Red Robust and the J2K Plus, some other previous Gen 3 style releases that have come out this year from other companies. They have a more solid and denser feel from the extra foam perimeter compared to a Gen 2 paddle and don't have quite as much of a stiff feel. Now, similar to the J2K Plus and the Red Robust, the Fever also doesn't qualify as a power paddle. With Friday's Gen 2 releases being in the all-court to all-court leaning control categories, out of the box, the Fever actually sits in the same area. Because in stock form it's so light, the power was pretty low and not close to other Gen 3 paddles. Now with some tape added, I did find the overall firepower to improve and sit higher in the all-court category. Similar to the other Gen 3 paddles, the Fever does have a bit of a break-in period, where it opens up a bit more after extended use and gives you some more power. After more playtime on mine, I will say that the power does open up and increase a bit more. I place it in the bottom of the all-court leaning power category, where it's a bit more powerful than paddles like the average Gen 2, but not at the level of the recent Gen 3 power paddle releases. I wouldn't compare the power level and feel to be close to that of a Yola Gen 3S, but Friday wasn't trying to mimic that with their Fever paddle. Their usage of the foam gives the paddle more of a plush and solid feel without running the risk of getting too powerful. What they have done is made a paddle that's on the lower end of the Gen 3 firepower level that also has that denser and more plush feel you see in these types of foam-enhanced paddles. We see the Fever as an improvement over their first two releases, and a step up in performance compared to both the original and Challenger series. Their original paddle line was always held back from the usage of paint grit, which doesn't provide paddles with surface grit that's very durable and causes spin generation to drop off quicker. With the Challenger, they introduced a raw carbon fiber surface to the paddle, which helped with the spin, but I found this series to be a bit too stiff and light feeling. I didn't think I was getting a solid contact on my shots compared to the original series. With the Fever, you get that raw carbon fiber surface again for great spin generation, but this time with an arguably better feel compared to both the Challenger and original series, as well as a little bit more firepower. That said, I still recommend Friday's first two series as beginner paddle options because that price point is really hard to beat for what the paddles are providing. With the Fever, I see it more as an advanced paddle to use, and it's a good upgrade for those looking to move on from the older Friday paddles. Though I will say that you do need to be comfortable with adding your own perimeter weighting because I don't recommend hitting this paddle stock. One last thing about the Fever is the durability. I haven't spent enough time with mine to really do an in-depth test on the paddle's durability, but I will say that from experience, thermoform paddles are always going to be prone to core crushing. Eventually, over time, the plastic in the core will break down and cause the paddle to behave in an unpredictable manner. This is something that happens to almost all paddles on the market, but with the Gen 3 paddles, an issue that has come up has been high spikes of power when the paddle's core gets compromised. This is something we've seen in the Gen 3 style Yolas and some others like the Sword and Shield J2K Plus. While I haven't personally experienced this with either of the Fever paddles I do have, I do think that this is something that could happen over time and something to be cognizant about. That said, the Fevers are the cheapest Gen 3 style paddles on the market right now at $99, and this drops down even further after a discount code. Since the price point is so low, compared to other Gen 3 style paddles, I do see it as a low risk picking one of these up, because in the event that you do need to replace one, it's not an expensive investment compared to the other Gen 3s on the market, and I don't think its durability is going to be any worse than any of the existing Gen 3s. Overall, the Fever is a very easy recommendation to people looking to pick up a Gen 3 style paddle. Its low price point combined with its much more friendly and forgiving nature makes it a great option for people looking to upgrade to just a bit more firepower from Friday's previous paddles. I know they do have a wide body shape as well that's currently in the works, but for those of you looking for a great affordable Gen 3 style elongated paddle right now, the Fever is one I do recommend. If you do want to pick one up, I've added my discount code here as well as a link to buy them in the video description below.